Welcome to another Greater Tax Returns Agency Training Essentials. And in this tutorial, we're going to share with you how to add your dependents into your tax preparation software. So come on and join us at the website and look forward to seeing you there. All right, we're at the client's office manager in your tax preparation software, and what we're going to do is add dependents for those that have dependents, whether they're married filing jointly or single, and or if they're head of household, and they could be actually a widow and filing dependents. But nevertheless, all of that applies. So we're going to go over here to Client Manager, hover over Client and Manager, scroll down to Manage Returns, or you can even click Client Manager. And we're going to go to the client Jane Doe and add dependent. So we're going to click on Manage. And then we're going to go up here to Edit, click on Edit, because we're editing her return. And as you can see, we want to stay on direct input, not interview input, direct input. Hit save and continue. Okay, now in our last video tutorials, we shared with you how to add the personal information, how to add any additional information. And the additional information may vary depending on the type of return that you're following too, by the way. There may be some entries added into it that applies to that client. So for example, if that client is a foreigner, or if they're filing a different type of a return, such as amendment. They're amending their taxes due to an error or a change in their return. So that can change, that can vary. So here we're going to click on dependent info, and we're going to add an info. And again, as you see, we have over here where it says useful links. These are educational resources. And the beauty about it is, you know, what we provide for you, including what the IRS provides you, gives you an abundance of education as it relates to preparing taxes. So over here it says, who can I claim as a dependent? And you can pull that up. And 10 things I know about the Child and Dependent Care Credit that you may want to take a look at. Okay, so but in the meantime, we're going to add a dependent. So you simply click on the link, add a dependent, and right here you come to this page here, which is your dependent summary, and all your dependents will be listed here. The first name, the last name, the social, date of birth, relationship, and then what kind of a credit applies to that particular dependent. So let's get started. Let's click on Add New, and now we're going to get started adding your dependent. So the first name can be Susan, or whatever the name of that dependent is. Now, of course, you're going off of what the client has given you in terms of documentation. Usually that's the reason why, you know, in a lot of cases we ask for the birth certificate, because the birth certificate generally gives the correct spelling of the dependent. That's the beauty about the birth certificate. You never go wrong, because we have known that, you know, parents misspell their own children's name, believe it or not. I know I've done it. Okay, and that's the truth, you know, and it's not intentional. It's just sometimes you may inadvertently not, you know, the client may inadvertently not give the right information at times. They could be preoccupied. Something could be going on in their lives. So having the birth certificate is always a plus. And the birth certificate could be even different from the Social Security number. Now, keep in mind that in a lot of cases, the IRS does go off of the Social Security number because it's connected, intertwined with the IRS. So last name is Doe, D-O-E. And we're not going to add a middle initial, which is always good to add if it's there, if it's provided. The relationship to the primary client, is it a son, is it a daughter, grandson, foster child? All of these parameters differ, and the IRS looks at that. Okay, is it a parent that you're taking, if the person is taking care of, uncle, aunt, stepchild, half brother, half sister? So there's a lot of folks you can claim, but we're going to say daughter in this particular case. And then date of birth, we're going to say June the 3rd, and we're going to say 2008, and automatically the system gives the age of the dependent. And that says a lot. You know, the younger the dependent, the more you can get in terms of earned income credit. The dependent Social Security number, we're going to go 333-221212. And and then we're going to go 333 to, oops, we're going to make sure we go here, 221212. If these numbers are wrong, the system will let you know. Did this client or did this dependent have his or her identity stolen? You want to add the PIN that was received by the IRS there, or this will not process. It will delay it if you don't have it. So you make sure you ask that question in your customer questionnaire, your client questionnaire that you complete for your client. Ask those questions so that you'll have whatever information that you need. And you know what, I'm a strong believer in this, is that if there's anything that I can get a hold of in terms of client information, I'll do it to assist the client in getting that information so it will not slow down the process. For example, identification protection PIN number, you can possibly help that client get. If they have one but don't know it, there's also a process in getting it as well. Did this dependent live with you in the last year? Yes, more than 6 months of the year, and then you put the number of months. Okay. No, due to divorce or separation. No, for other reasons, not a child. Okay. So the no due to divorce, when you click on that, it asks another series of questions. Does not meet the exemption to time lived with you due to temporary absence by you or the other client. The other or special circumstances. Okay, we're going to go here. Now let's reduce this, the number of months, and then click here. It does not meet neither. So when you click on yes, more than 6 months, it will apply, and then you can put the number of months that this person lived here. Or is the child deceased? You can add that here as well. And then, of course, below here, it says claim as dependent, which automatically is checked off. This dependent is eligible for the child tax credit depending on the income. Okay. Generally, the earned income credit is generally applies for moderate to low income individuals. Over here, it says can claim this qualifying child for earned income credit. And then you can click here if this child is a full-time student, which the client is permanently and totally disabled, was kidnapped by someone who is not a family member, And if we run over here, is a U.S. citizen, which is automatically checked. Dependent is filing a joint return for 2016. Then you scroll down, and we're gonna add any type of expenses due to any type of child care. Well, most people know that if you have an 8-year-old, you know, in a lot of cases, somebody's going to take care of that child at some time or another. Now, usually between the ages of 0 to 5 years, their child care full time is usually a standard. Now, when we're talking about an 8-year-old child, in a lot of cases, somebody takes care of that child after school. So it makes sense to that, you know, most parents would pay for child care. Okay, how much is the key? Because, you know, the Internal Revenue knows that, you know, if the child is 8 years of age, that child, if that child is not homeschooled, they're going to school. And we have to provide that information as well. Okay, so qualifying child independent care expense. Form 2441. We're going to take a look at it. It basically asks a couple of questions as it relates to the child care. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put in here how much the child care was for a month. Okay, let's say $300. Qualified tuition and related expenses paid to eligible institutions not listed on form 1098T. A 1098T is a form that you receive from your college. If you have a child that's going to college, and you receive that once a year at the end of the year. However, there could be other expenses that, you know, such as room and board and other expenses that you may have paid out for this particular child. So you have to look at that. Does this dependent as a qualifying child have a social security number that allows him or her to work or is valid for the earned income credit purpose? Yes. Could any other person claim this dependent as a qualifying? No. Okay. Now, this is the question. If this says no and somebody's claimed it, then this client has to prove that this dependent belongs to them. And that's the reason why we asked for the documentation that we asked for. And we have a video series that covers that, how to set up your client, basically, what you need and how to get all that structured so you can process them. Did the dependent live with you in the United States for more than half of 2016? And you say yes. Did the dependent taxpayer have health insurance coverage at any time? You can say yes. Did the dependent taxpayer have health insurance coverage through the marketplace? You can say yes. Okay, and automatically this information is checked, the form 1095A. And again, when the client receives a 1095A, which is no more than a marketplace statement verifying that you did, you had insurance through the marketplace, Obamacare, within 2016. And then you get a copy of that and send that along with their other documents, okay, to Greater Tax Return, so we can have it on file, and you definitely keep a copy, okay? They have to have this in order to claim it. They can't just tell you, oh, I had Obamacare. Okay, so where's the statement? Oh, I don't have it. Well, we need to get it in order to keep you from getting penalized for not having insurance. We cannot process this until we have the documentation. Did the dependent taxpayer's health insurance cover through, okay, we've already marked that as yes. Now, did the dependent have insurance coverage at any time? We said yes. And now, let's say if we said no. And if we said no, then other things are taken into consideration when it comes to processing their returns. The dependent taxpayer have insurance coverage. I mean, I've read that already. Is this dependent required to file their own tax returns? No. Okay. Now, if we hit yes again, let's say this. They may have received, this independent may have received health care under a state program. For example, Michigan, the state of Michigan, state of New York, it's usually Medicaid, okay? And or the child may have received insurance under the primary client, the primary recipient of this tax return, employer's insurance. So each of these entries has its own type of form, and that you need to get it. Check here to confirm that, and then we have here, check here to confirm that the dependent taxpayer had insurance during 2016, but has yet received any 1099 form at this time. Okay, now, so if you didn't receive the 1095 form for any one of these insurance, select the months. However, it's a good idea to hunt that down because you don't want anything stopping you from getting hindering this return from being funded. Is the dependent required to file their own taxes? No. I mean, their own returns? No. And then click here for dependents filing requirements. And we're going to hit save since we're pretty much finished here. And if anything that we did wrong is highlighted, then we have to fix it. So right here it says, did dependent taxpayer have health coverage? We're going to click yes. What happened was we left these open, and we're going to say the marketplace. Okay. And then we're going to click save, and you see that any errors that occurs on this particular form, you can correct on the most part here. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that if the Internal Revenue, when we submit this in and it's transmitted, and this dependent is flagged for whatever reason, that can happen. But on our end, to the best of our ability, we've submitted the right information. Now, let's say someone claimed this dependent and the Social Security number is either wrong or it's been used. This system generally catches that. So, and that's a good thing because now we can tell the client, you know, something happened where somebody used this dependent. It can possibly happen. Hopefully before we submit it, so we can take care of it before we actually transmit the whole file. So now we've added a dependent into the system, and now we're going to add another. Here you can edit this dependent, and as you can see, their name, their last name, their social, date of birth, what kind of relationship there is, and then all the credits that they can receive for this, for what they can receive in terms of credits. This person is dependent. This child receives a child care, can receive a child care credit, and then also the earned income credit. And then click here where the little blue pencil is, and you can make changes if necessary to this dependent. Also, you can delete it as well. We're going to add another dependent, and we're going to call this dependent Sam Doe. And we're going to add a middle initial. And we're going to say this dependent is a son. We're going to give the date of birth. And this son is age 6. And we're going to add the Social Security number. And again, this is very, very important that you add the correct Social Security numbers, addresses, and correct spelling of names. And the best way to do it is not necessarily rely so much on the client, is to rely on the documentation that they give you. Why? Because you could misread what the client has added on their questionnaire, even though a lot of the information is right, but you definitely want to go over it and compare it to the documentation that you receive so that it's accurate. Is there a PIN, identification PIN, added with this client, with this dependent? You want to add it here if their identity has been stolen. Has this dependent lived with the client for more than 6 months? We added that. And then everything that's checked here, we added in terms of claim. They could claim this person as a dependent, is eligible for child care credit because they're under the age of 18, is a U.S. citizen, and this person can be claimed as a qualifying child for earned income credit. And nothing else really applies here, but read every line. Qualifying child and dependent care expense, let's say $700. Okay. Qualified tuition and related expenses paid to eligible institutions not listed on form. And that could be anything to enrolling in this college. Say, for example, to enroll in, the application fee is $150. You can actually claim that. And any dormitory expenses, those type of things, you can literally write off. Does this depend, as a qualified child, have a Social Security number that allows him or her to work or is valid for EIC? Yes. Could any other person claim this dependent? No. Did this dependent live with you in the United States for more than half a year? Yes. Did the dependent have health insurance coverage at any time? In this case, we're going to say yes. And then we've gone over this before. We're going to click the first one, marketplace, because the parent has marketplace insurance. And in most cases, if the parent has an insurance, of children fall under it. However, if the parent in general is moderate to low income and has several dependents, in a lot of cases they do qualify for Medicaid, so take that into consideration, which is Form 1095B. Okay. And is this dependent required to file their own tax returns? No. Yes. No. We're going to hit no. And as you can see, if we hit yes, what happens? Click here. Okay. Enter the adjusted gross income for this dependent from Form 1040 line 38. Okay. And you follow these entries here, which we're not going to do. Okay. So the question is this dependent required to file their own tax return? No. And then we're going to hit save. Again, if any errors occur, then we have to click them off. Okay. Did the dependent taxpayer have health insurance coverage through the marketplace at any time during 2006? Yes. And then we hit save again. Now we have two dependents. So at this time, we just want to do a recap. We have two dependents here, a daughter and a son. They both qualify for the child tax credit and the earned income credit. If you need to edit, you can simply click on any one of these pencils that applies to the dependent you need to correct. You can also delete. So again, thank you for joining us in this tutorial, and we hope to connect with you in the next.